For post-war Tokyo, the hosting of the 1964 Olympic Games was an epoch-making event. Japan was in the middle of rapid economic growth, and it was the country's first opportunity since the war to host an international event. The eyes of the nation were on Tokyo. The Olympics were seen as a great chance to transform Tokyo's urban fabric. The city's population had rocketed after the war. Tokyo was a fast-growing metropolis, but the infrastructure was relatively weak. The Olympics were an opportunity to invest in transportation infrastructure, such as expressways. This matched Tokyo's own needs. Hosting an international competition like the Olympics had a great influence on policy formation and policy implementation. It was easy for this kind of political issue to win the support of the Japanese public. And Japan was able to make infrastructure investment the top policy. Other countries have done the same thing, using the hosting of the Olympics or an expo. Spending on the roads alone was 110 billion yen at 1964 prices. This was almost half the total expenditure. Building the actual athletic facilities amounted to less than 20% of the budget. The core of the Capital Expressway network was built to prepare the way for the motorization of Japan. Ring Road No. 7 was built on land purchased from residents who had refused to sell until the Olympics changed their minds. The Shinkansen bullet train was built to provide an alternative to air travel. Japan borrowed from the World Bank to finance the Shinkansen and the Tomei Expressway. These were the last projects for which Japan received foreign loans. But Japan was beginning to have the infrastructure needed for Japanese society to embrace the car. There have been 4 episodes of major redevelopment in Tokyo. The urban infrastructure development for the Olympics was one of them. In Japan, after a plan is adopted, there is typically a delay before implementation. Frequently, no progress is made until something significant happens, and then action has to be taken. In the case of Tokyo, there were 4 incidents. The Meiji Restoration in 1868 was accompanied by street improvements. After the Great Kanto earthquake of 1923, there was major rebuilding. There was rebuilding again after the Second World War. And finally, the Olympics in 1964. But hosting the Olympics was the only time that fundamental infrastructure development was carried out before the triggering event and supported by a vision of the future. So the Olympics represented a landmark in the history of urban policy in Tokyo. But time was limited, and there was a sense of urgency about motorization. The result was unfortunate. Most of the expressways were built over rivers and canals in central Tokyo. These waterways had once given Tokyo the nickname the Venice of the Orient. The expressways badly affected the beauty of central Tokyo. One expressway runs above a famous bridge at Nihonbashi. People say that all roads in Japan lead to this point. But it is said that to relocate this expressway would cost 1 trillion yen. This symbolizes the difficulty of doing city planning from a long-term perspective.